We'll call this meeting to order on August 18th at 5:32 p.m. I'll ask for a recording. I'll ask for someone to move the agenda as presented. Councillor Whalen, seconded by Councillor Kirkbride. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. They contrary minded nay. Motion is carried. There are no presentations or delegations, so we'll go right on to the monthly reports. Those have been presented in your packet. So we'll start with the Engineering and Public Works report. Are there any questions on the Engineering and Public Works report? Okay, so seeing none, corporate services. Okay, so seeing none, finance. Councillor Dodd.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just a question on the status update. I noticed several times running now, we've had the water meter for automatic readings. It's an ongoing issue. Is there at some point where we get those things all into the system, or what is that?
I'll turn that over to our CAO or to Dave.
Well, I think, I know from a finance perspective, it's something that they have wanted to continually work on. I think from an engineering perspective, every year they purchase a certain amount of meters to switch over. I'm not sure this year if how many they've done this year to switch over, but David, I'm not sure if you know right offhand or not.
I seem to remember, I think we had budgeted like 200 a year or something like that. And then any new developments would automatically have an RF installed, and any ones that were being repaired or upgraded would have an RF
So,
component.
so that gets put into this system that with this Microsoft or Microsoft system, is that what the intent is? To keep it updated so we know what the totals are?
So with the RF, instead of walking up and reading, tapping the house, you would be able to drive by the house. There'd be a reader in the vehicle and we drive by. But to attach it, you have to, I think they have to go in the house on some of them to make the connection. So it's a little slow in the sense you have to schedule with the residents and things like that. And also with the cost, that's why we're only doing so many units a year. Progressively to get it switched over.
Councillor Dodd, do you have a further?
Yes, I do. I understand that that's the reading part of the meters. I'm talking about what the CAO referenced as the number of meters. Like, how does the finance department know the number of meters? You say it's roughly 200,
I think that's what we were budgeting. Not sure how many.
but you don't know exactly how many we actually do in a run of the year, or is it just at the end of the year?
I'd
You
have to
know?
double check on that. I'm not sure. Like I said, they were aiming for 250, but I'm not sure exactly how many they did.
Okay,
Subsequent years.
okay, thank you.
So knowing that that's a question, perhaps we could have our CAO look into that for you. Take it through exactly. Are there any other questions on the finance report? Okay, so seeing none, we'll go on to human resources. Councillor Dodd.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just inquisitive mind, I noticed that there was under holiday relief termination of Luke Doucette.
Yeah,
CAO?
so Your Worship, essentially, as you know, when they bring individuals in, they have that 6-week sort of orientation process, and so this person didn't pass that 6-week orientation process, which is all part and parcel process. I know termination sounds like a really arduous word, but it's really just that. It's just that we weren't going to move forward with this person, and so subsequently they've gone in the pool to the next person, and they're now in that 6-week orientation process.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anything else in the HR report? Okay, so seeing none, we'll go on to planning and compliance. Are there any questions on the planning and compliance report? Okay, seeing none, Oromocto Fire Department. Recreation and tourism. Well, Councillor Dodd.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just the fact that I noticed there was 118 community guides that were mailed out. Are we working to get that narrowed down a bit since we have it online and they're placed in places around the town?
Jackson.
It's your worship. So yes, we are continually trying to narrow that scope down as we move along. I know, the director and her group are kind of looking at that and making sure that some of those numbers, if they're just sort of on there because they forgot they initially wanted it, and so as time goes, the goal is to continue to shrink that and have them available in a couple of places for pickup. But eventually we'll end up with a purely electronic, most likely.
And just another
As
follow
further,
up.
yeah.
The Voyer alert, I noticed was 583. I'm just wondering how we're going to work to increase this in light of everything that's happened with the fire and all the alerts we've been getting. I know that's a nice number, but it still needs to be healthier. And so do we have anything planned on how we can work towards increasing this?
Yeah, well, planned, we're always, most departments, especially those who are most forward facing. So anytime we're doing events, anytime like these unfortunate events that we can say, oh, by the way, if you want more information, sign up for Voyant. We're trying our best to use those as opportunities to get more people signed up and aware that it's out there. I know Fredericton is in a similar boat, and if you've heard the fire chief on the radio or whatever, he's been pitching Voyant as well, because their numbers in comparison are about the same to ours. So everybody's doing their best to try to get people signed up, and the more we can, we'll keep continuing to do so. But unfortunately, there's no magic bullet to getting people to sign up for these things, but anytime we have an opportunity, whether it be a open house or a community event or a natural event like what we've had with wildfires, we'll do our best to keep pushing that.
Does it get rotated on the community board? I don't think it has for a while. Maybe we could reintroduce that again. And I know it was on the website and on Facebook, but I haven't seen it for a while. Might be a good time now to bring that forward again.
Particularly with,
So it
how
doesn't
the
get lost.
community changes with postings and all that kind of thing. I think that's an opportune time. Councilor Murdoch, did you have a?
Yeah, just back to the newsletter, I understand that obviously electronic is where we're gonna go, but we still have a fair amount of people in our community that don't do that or are not quite there, so before we make the clean cut, I just wanna, and I love the idea that it's in certain places where they can pick it up. I know that it's something with downsizing, but at the same time, let's be conscious that there are people that actually don't do everything online, so
Thank you.
even if there's a handful.
Anything further on the recreation and tourism report? Okay, so now let's go on to the clerk's office. So seeing none, we'll now go on to administration, which is 5A, the tender award, Schooler Street Infrastructure Upgrade with David Goodfellow.
Evening, everyone. This request for decision is regards to the school and street infrastructure upgrades for water, sewer, and storm, and paving and curbing. This part of the town, excuse me, the infrastructure in this part of town is roughly about 70 years old. We have a lot of known issues in this part. A lot of infrastructure is installed a little differently than what we do today. So we got a design done a little while back, issued a tender. Like we went through it here, August 11th, we posted, July 29th, we posted the tender, closed on August 11th. We had 5 submissions, the engineer's quite excited about that, there's usually only about 3 submissions maybe this time of year, but there seem to be some contractors with some open schedules. The engineer's estimate was with taxes, $1.791 million. $1,791,000. $1,791,000. And the lowest bid came in at taxes included at 1.67 million. So it came in under the engineer's estimate and under our budget. So the engineering public works is recommending that council approve the wording this time.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? Councilor Duff.
Thank you. Dave, I know that Monteith, Dexter's used to be Monteith. Have they done work in the town on this type of work previously?
Mhm.
Perfect.
Gilmore, I think it was.
Okay,
They've done a lot of work in the Farmington area and surrounding area for.
I just want to know that they know what they're up against with what's going on.
I actually worked with them when I was with ADI as an inspector too, with the same
Perfect.
supervisor.
Any other questions on that? As the mayor would say, woman fuzzy. Okay, so thank you very much on that one, and I'm sure you can, so the 5-year financial plan, go into that with John Thompson.
Your worship. This is one little presentation.
Down's up, up is down.
Okay. Thank you, your worship. Time flies, just seems like we were here not that long ago. It was last year, this time of year, so here we are again. So we'll go through this updated plan. A number of things are the same, it's just been updated, but we'll go through it here. The objective of tonight is to give an update to last year's financial plan presented to council, provide a high-level overview of the financial plan incorporating major investments on the horizon, to review the impact of these major investments on our tax rate, water sewer rates, and to gather and review any feedback comments from council. What we're seeking is with this plan to get an approval of this updated plan so that it'll provide direction to staff for our 2026 budget preparations that are beginning now. Last year, for the 2025 budget process, there was a resolution of council to that spoke to, said whereas council desires to construct and operate a new cultural generational center and arena, replace 2 major fire trucks and construct a new fire station to meet the growing demands of the community, and whereas there is an immediate demand to maintain and increase the town's water and sewer infrastructure to increase its capacity over the next 5 years, now therefore be it resolved the council approve and accept the 5-year plans presented to council and committee on 20 August 2024, authorizing the rate increases and as detailed therein. So as we know, we prepared a 2025 budget. Then since then, concerning some of these larger capital projects, just to give you an update, in 2025, the applications were made to the Municipal Capital Board to get authorization to borrow. We've received 5 ministerial approval numbers so that we're authorized to borrow. We haven't borrowed anything yet, but we have the authorization. And just to give council an update, some of the major projects is we have authorization to borrow up to 2.1 million for a pumper tanker fire truck, 1.45 million for a custom fire rescue truck, 2.9 million for the Wood Street sanitary force main and lift station, 548,000 for the Schooler Street storm sewer pipe renewal, 1.5 million for the Schooler Street sanitary and water main pipe renewal, and 70.5 million for the Oromocto Regional Wellness and Recreation Center. So to date, we've obtained authorization to borrow up to 26 million for these projects, just to give you an idea of the dollars we're talking about. And as a further update, most of the projects are just starting, but the 2 fire trucks, they do the chassis and then we get the final fire trucks. So far in 2025,
We're expecting 900,000 to be spent on the chassis for the pumper tanker and 500,000 by December on the custom rescue fire truck. Looking at the water and sewer projections, you'll see something new on this. Normally, we had everything together, residential, commercial, and institutional. What you'll see as we move forward, we're going to look at separating the commercial and institutional from the residential and calling it a non-residential rate. When you look at 2026, we're looking at a $25 per quarter fixed rate increase for residential. And as talked about last year, reducing the consumption rate from $3.30 per cubic meter down to $3. Looking at the proposed commercial institutional rate, same thing, a fixed rate increase of $25 per quarter to $137.50. But recommending that we hold their consumption rate at $3.30. And then moving forward, for 2027 for the residential is the same as what was presented last year, with a further reduction of the consumption rate to $2.90, holding the fixed rate. But then in 2028, 2029, holding the fixed and consumption rates in order to meet the needs of what we're forecasting. And then for the quarterly rates for the commercial institutional, holding the rate for 2027, and then in 2028, 29 going forward, looking at increasing their fixed consumption rate. Because the thing to keep in mind here about these fixed rates is when you look at the residential, you'll have a fixed rate for each residential home. But when you have apartment complexes with a number of units in them, there's one meter going in with one fixed rate being charged for maybe 24 units, say, or something, versus one residential home getting the same thing. So we're just trying to look at what we can do to revise that model.
And I'll add to that too, as people are seeing the predominant housing stock that's being built is more multi-unit right now. And so we're trying to ensure that we reflect that in some of our water billing as we move forward, instead of burdening the traditional homeowner with more increases, as we will try to leverage the fact that we're creating more new units and do it by virtue of having a commercial institutional model. So this is the beginning of it, because we recognize again that we want to ease the pain to those, prototypical homeowners who have been bearing it so far. But as we grow, we need to recognize that we have new housing types and reflect that in our.
Councillor Dodd.
Thank you. So if you have 4 complex together, wouldn't they each have a meter? Is it only 1 meter and they all get their water from that?
Depends what kind.
It depends, yes, it depends how they're set up. I'll say if it's built like a row house or a townhouse where they're individual units, sometimes they'll have their individual meters. But if it's built in the form of an apartment unit where you might have an interior corridor, a lot of those just have the single meter. So that's where we're trying to ensure that we make that distinction.
Okay, Mr. Thompson, you can proceed.
Water sewer forecast assumptions. All other operating costs are expected to increase by 2% per year, or $50,000. All major capital projects will require funding from provincial, federal, and 2/3 minimum. We'll look at gas tax monies, how we can allocate that best to meet all the projects we have to do. This plan assumes takeover of D&D wastewater treatment plant by 2028. And operating cost offset by fees charged to D&D. Estimated net of 1.25 million cost to run the facility. Rates for 2028 and beyond depend heavily on this. Oromocto West Lagoon Project, 25 million in infrastructure, recap of water sewer pipes. 15 million built into the forecast. These projects will depend on obtaining funding partners also. And the boring that I was just talking about, that we got authority to do, a lot of those things are based on us just getting borrowing for our share that we knew we would have to do, but anything further would depend on getting funding partners, so. It also, this financial plan assumes absorbing the D&D water sewer rate increase average of 220,000 per year for 10 years. Currently, we're in year 2 of the 10-year increase. And then looking at water costs for fire protection monies that come from the general operating fund, looking at a further decrease of that in 2026 of 56,700.
Councilor Murdoch.
So for the water treatment, now I know you're talking about the estimated cost of running it. But is there a number of, because clearly one of the reasons we want to run it is because what they're charging us is economically not feasible long term. Is there a savings by the time? I know that it's kind of hard because you're gonna be owning something to run it, that makes sense. But is there a predictability that as we own our own system and stuff, that some of our water costs are gonna be a better cost for us because of this change, even though it may take a few years? Would that be fair to assume?
Mr. Jackson.
Yeah, it's fair to assume. I mean, the broad changes come from just the fact of managing it with our own staff, for example. So, no secret that people who are paid through the federal system and federal pensions, it costs more per hour for a similar position in town. So there's some savings just in that. No secret that when the federal group tenders work for recap or new build, there's always a certain percentage markup on that basis from, the construction world, if you will, because they know that the federal government is.
But just usage alone, because one of the biggest issues we faced the last few years was the cost of usage buying it. I mean, and it's got the point where, supposedly it's what it's costing them, which,
Right.
to your point, this overhead that we just use summarized a couple little ways that would. Is incorporated in that, but the fact that we're have the different types of pay scale, that makes sense, and how we're running things. But that potential cost that we pay to buy water.
Right.
Should be less.
Yeah, because.
So hypothetically, even though we want to think we got new employees, we got a bunch of stuff that looks like we paid for, that it's a 1.25 cost, it's actually something that's gonna be. If we kept paying to rent all this time, then we'd never get anywhere, I guess is my point.
Yeah.
It is gonna be eventually more economic.
It will be, and in simple fact of it's kind of like owning your home versus renting it, right?
Right.
Because there's some benefit in owning the asset because you can then leverage it. But when you're a client and you're simply paying a bill, you're basically
Paying what they
whatever
charge.
they tell you. Versus if you own it, now you can charge them, but you can also leverage the asset if need be to borrow against it for other things. So there's a benefit there in the long term as well.
Okay, Mr. Thompson.
2026 budget considerations staff recommend the water sewer rate plan for 2026 be accepted to move forward for budget planning. Refine the rate revenue structure to better reflect the service model, i.e. what we're talking about, having a non-residential rate structure, and seek additional provincial federal funding directly related to water sewer projects. Why continue with the water sewer rate plan? Need for increased capacity of sewage treatment in Oromocto West. The D&D water sewer rate increase of 15% over each of the next 2 years. Need to catch up on existing aging infrastructure, i.e. old pipes. Operational modernizations lead to efficiency through investments. Operational costs reflect real costs, i.e. the water cost transfer. We continue to work on trying to reduce that burden on the general operating fund. And just as an information, taxes do not cover water sewer infrastructure and maintenance. Legislation dictates that this must be funded through direct water sewer billing. Tax rate projections for the next 5 years on the general fund side for property tax. Basically, the rate increases, we're recommending the same rate increases. It's just that for 2025, council will recall that they reduced the original plan for property tax increase by 0.5 cent. So the starting rates for 2025 are 0.5 cent less than what they would have been in the previous financial plan. But as far as wards 1, 2, and 3, we're recommending increase 2 cents through to the year 2028 with no change from the previous year's projections, with a rate hold in 2029. And also remind council that the federal rate follows a consistent ratio. For Lincoln Ward 4, an increase of 4 cents for 2026, 2 cents increase in 2027, 2028, consistent with wards 1, 2, and 3. And no change from the previous year's projection. A rate hold in 2029 as we have achieved the fair differential tax rate outlined in our local government reform implementation. The other thing to keep in mind is with no assessment increase by the government of New Brunswick, an average home assessed at $350,000 would see an increase to their current tax bill of $70 in the original Oromocto section and $140 in Lincoln, reflecting the 2 and 4 cent rate increase. Just taking a look again to remind council of the tax rate analysis today versus with the proposed rate increase. When you look at the current on the bottom, the current 2025 tax rates, you know, we can't compete with the cities, but if you compare Oromocto to Woodstock, Riverview, Quispamsis, Sackville, we see that we're basically in the middle of that pack. And then on the top, we're showing the proposed 2026 rates for Oromocto, $1.45. 1.4501 and Lincoln 1.0157 cents. Major investments, again, this slide is familiar, it's just kind of updating some of the information. 2025 to 2026, we're looking at the fire trucks. We'll get the chassis this year and we'll take delivery of the fire trucks next year. 2026, 2027 is water sewerage lines, 15 million. And then 2027 to 2028 wastewater treatment solution, 25 million that we're taking a look at. 2029 Oromocto Community Recreation and Wellness Center to the tune of approximately 90 million. And then far out in 2030, looking at a fire station, approximately $10 million. All of this, of course, is the plan. It's yet to be determined, I guess, council's decision to be made. Major investments based on current priorities. Just to give a perspective of Oromocto Regional Wellness Recreation Center, the estimated cost 90 million, the town share 17.5 million. Annual repayment will be 1.5 million over a period of 20 years. Wastewater treatment solution, which I believe is the lagoon, is what it is. It is a 25 million estimated cost, town share will be 8.25 million. Looking at $596,000 per year for 30 years. Water sewer line renewal, 15 million, our share 5 million, with an annual repayment of 369,000 over 30 years. Fire station, again 10 million, town share, we'd be funding that 10 million. Annual repayment of 865,000. Over 20 years, and then the fire trucks at 3.5 million collectively, looking at 362,000 over 15 years. Just to give an update on the progress of some things, Oromocto Regional Wellness Recreation Center in 2025 to 2027, looking at site abatement and demolition, design and construction management testing. The wastewater treatment solution, 2025 to 2026, a detailed design, tender, and construction. Water sewer line renewal, 2025 to 2026, design, tender, and construction. And then the fire trucks, the 2026 delivery. General operating fund forecast assumptions. Built into the plan is inflation for 2026 of 2%. And then going ahead to 2027 to 2028, a 3% inflation increase, 2029 to 2030, 2%. And again, these are just predictions and plans, who knows what can happen, so you have to start somewhere. Property assessment freeze for 2026. What's built into the plan is estimating that for the new construction that we might see a 1.25% assessment increase on the new, but with the freeze on everything else, we've worked that into the plan. Operating costs for multicultural generational center and arena will be an additional 1.25 million to the operation cost in 2029. The community funding equalization grant continues to decrease. It was 510,000 in 2022. It is going down to 121,000 in 2026 and 0 in 2027. Regional Service Commission charge increase at the rate of inflation as a minimum was $200,000 in 2025. And gas tax funding is earmarked for capital projects. All major capital projects will require funding from the province and provincial and federal governments of a 2/3 minimum. And again, as you saw at the beginning of the slides, a proposed resolution direction to staff, because this is really what we're beginning our 2026 budget preparations. So we would like to have a, direction from council where we can plan and use these rates that we propose to plan our budgets. It's always up to council what they decide to do, I guess. But whereas council desires to construct and operate the Oromocto Regional Wellness Recreation Center, replace 2 major fire trucks and construct a new fire station to meet the growing demands of the community. And there's an immediate demand to maintain and increase the town's water sewer infrastructure through the construction of a lagoon and upgrade of existing infrastructure, increasing its capacity over the next 5 years. Council approves and accepts the 5-year financial plan as presented to council and committee on 21 August 2025, authorizing the proposed rate increases as detailed therein for the basis of 2026 budget process.
Any questions? Councilor Dodd?
Thank you. Just a question on the fire station. It doesn't fall in the realm of us being able to split that 1/3, 1/3, 1/3. And I know it's probably one of those funny things, but with all the activity that's happening out there with all these fires and everybody being conscious now of what's going on in the environment and things like that, I'm surprised that that wouldn't fit into it.
I mean, I can answer that. Currently, it doesn't. That doesn't mean that we won't aim to see in the next few years if something does come online, because as we know, I mean, governments can be, they might decide that they want to spend money on firefighting capabilities, but right now it's planned for what we know. And what we know right now is there's 0 funding for that type of a bill.
So it could change by 20.
It could, and we will definitely keep that on our radar should that be the case.
Councilor Murdoch? Oh, sorry.
And just another follow-up, is there a reason that the wellness center has a 20-year period when the other 2 lesser ones have a 30-year period
Mr. Thompson?
over the years paying back?
There's a prescription amongst the borrowing board in which you can borrow for a in-ground infrastructure assets at a longer term than you can buildings, and that's why. So we're just going with the maximum term that we can borrow. And generally speaking, for buildings, it's 20, and for in-ground infrastructure, it's 30.
Councilor Murdoch?
So having said that with the water, so is there, like you mentioned, is there money to be had for that kind of support? Or, we talked about the different, I know we get borrow money, but money being like grants and the programs that are available that we haven't already tapped into, is that something that's big and popular, or is that we tapped into everything that's there already?
Mr. Jackson?
So we're working on several different applications for funding on all the projects we have on our list. Some are further in the pipe than others because right now, the 2 governments, be it provincial, federal governments, are big on infrastructure, helping funding infrastructure. So we're working through like the water sewer related things, and we're positive on that. And there isn't as much funding yet on recreational facilities, but it's gonna turn around because it always does. We see cycles of that. Um, but the big current push is infrastructure and housing. But with that, we will be making our applications and have been for some smaller pots to keep our projects moving forward. But the goal will always be that we need to hit those targets before we commit to the full, shovel in the ground process. So, and that's what we're committed to doing.
Are there any other questions with Mr. Thompson? Okay, so seeing none, is everybody okay for the 5-year financial plan? Councilor Bonner?
Not warm and fuzzy.
Okay, notice I didn't ask that question. No, I understand, and I understand the, yeah,
I understand the process, just don't like it.
Understood.
okay, so can we go on now to the 2026 budget preparation? Mr. Thompson?
Thank you, your worship. There's, what you received is the municipal budget preparation process memo from the CAO, giving direction to staff. Just the highlights for council really are, reminding department managers of the assessment freeze and, to be conscious of that when they're budgeting, trying to find efficiencies and plan well. With direction has been given to plan for inflationary increases of 2% if needed. Of course, wage increases, we have QP, we have IAFF with their CBAs, collective bargaining agreements, we'll have to honor those. But for the non-bargaining, the 10-month average of CPI to the end of June was 1.3%, so that's the direction that's been given right now for non-bargaining. Just looking through here to see the things that would be for council's awareness. Is I guess in here on page 3 of the memo, it talks about the public budget consultation. And last year there was a public survey that was conducted in the month of September. So I guess that's coming up the next item. I guess I just realized I'm starting. That's something you'll be discussing after this. And then looking at, just for dates for council's awareness, is looking at a public consultation at the municipal office council chamber on 14 October at the council and committee meeting. And then also how we did last year and in previous years, there's a presentation by department heads and council of their proposed budgets. Looking at doing that again this year, but on October 23rd, which is a Thursday night. Following the similar process, when you look at the end of the memo here, there's a schedule for that night of department heads to come in and present to council. So just for council's awareness, those dates and and if council is agreeable to the process that we're laying in.
Further to that, your worship, if we are, we'll ensure that Cynthia puts the calendar invites in your respective calendars for these dates, but we wanted to check to make sure there wasn't, some issue with any of the dates that were proposed in the draft memo before we do that and cause mass confusion by changing calendars. So
they're checking their calendar now.
yeah, so if there isn't, then we'll ensure that you get the calendar invites for those respective dates, and then that way you'll be set up for success.
So does anyone have any major objections with the dates that have been laid out? I know it seems like a long ways away to some people, but it'll be coming up pretty soon. Okay, so seeing none, anybody have any questions about the 2026 budget presentations? Okay, so seeing none, thank you very much, Mr. Thompson, appreciate it. And now for the budget survey, I'll pass it on to Cindy Gogan.
Thanks. I guess at the end of the day, we're looking to see if council has an interest again this year in distributing a survey similar to the one that was held last year, where we asked the citizens to identify or share with us some of their thoughts and guidance in some key priority areas. So what we've done is we've just reviewed the survey from last year, made a few minor edits. And a copy of it we attached to the memo. So we're just looking for direction, your worship, from council to see if they'd like us to put that survey out again this year. We'd like to do it now.
Yeah.
And probably at the beginning of September, just because as we go into the fall deliberations, you would have that.
Councilor Carr?
Yeah, thank you. My opinion is, one, it's not drawing somebody away from other really important business that they need to get done. It's not costing them a boatload of money, and any information is good information.
Yeah.
It looks like it didn't, because I'd say it's kind of as a refresh from the one that was already graded, so the legwork's been done. But I think it's a worthy endeavor, even if we don't only get a fairly small number of respondents, it's something. And it's showing interest in the public's input. Support.
No, thank you, Councilor Carr. Any other comments? As you noticed from me, I haven't said anything on any of the topics because I'm not really supposed to, but I will just say a very short thing on this one. I know you like this. I will say I do like the idea of voice and giving community the opportunity to share their opinions, because I do think that's really important, because if you get many responses of the same thing, it really directs us towards where the community wants us to put their tax dollars. So I would definitely be in favor of it myself, but. Councilor,
Thank you. I was scrolling through because I knew I had read something that I wanted to ask. Question number 4. How did you hear about this survey? And it lists Recreation Social Council meeting. Well, that kind of narrows it down, since we don't have very many people sitting in those chairs and the same people sitting around this table. So,
But if they watch it
Yeah.
on YouTube online.
oh, I see. I never thought of that.
and I also think it gives you an indication in terms of where are people getting their information. So if you're getting only 10% of people saying that they're getting their information from our social media, but 90% of people are getting their information from the Rec and Tourism Guide, then I think that kind of gives an idea of what kind of vessel or medium people are using to garner information. So I think that's good as well. Any other, Councilor Ryder?
Thank you, worship. Should we, social media is a big spectrum. Should we be putting a couple other options in there rather than just other, please specify? I mean,
Cindy?
Yeah, absolutely.
the easy way is, there's an easy way to get what platform people are using.
Right. It might be worthwhile to ask which social media platform, we talked about trying to keep the survey a bit similar, so that over a period of 2 or 3 years, you could really start to see whether there was any trends that emerge out of that data. But to your point, it may be worthwhile asking.
Social medias are we on?
Well, we have Facebook, we've got Twitter, Instagram.
No, but they, someone else could hear about it on a different platform, because someone posted there or something. Friends or family are on that.
So it's something we could take away.
It's an easy way to do
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
Oftentimes, if you click on the social media one, then there's a drop, you can make a drop down where you can pick which one they're underneath.
Look, I can put a link to anything.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, it's gonna be Survey Monkey, as long as they have access to it.
Yeah, I mean, like we've, our age, it's Facebook, right? That's certain, there's a lot more out there than that.
sure, yeah. And
That's good feedback.
Yeah.
Anybody else have any other feedback or questions about the budget survey? Councilor Kirkby.
Thank you, worship. I'm just wondering if there's a yellow drop down menu like a person for the very first question, which is upon today's best describes your connection to Taylor Oromocto resident. If it could be a drop down menu saying, oh, with it. Idea to help us.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, we can only trust people are gonna be honest on it anyway. I mean, my parents can be doing a question more-ish. It's like, you have to have some trust that people will do it honestly.
And the only caveat I would say to that one is you're gonna put the ward, and I'm just looking for it now.
we could,
You have to stay beside it, which
If
is.
you hit resident and have a little drop down beside it.
we would describe the
We would
ward.
have to describe-
Exactly.
Otherwise we'll be
That's
inundated with what ward they
Yes.
use.
That was my point, is it's gonna say where, what was, but I like that idea. It's a good idea.
Yeah.
Anything else? Okay, so we'll move on to, it was noted before the meeting started that the draft minutes, were not in the package. They will be added to the package right after the meeting, so you'll be able to read those before Thursday. So with that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Counselor Doss, seconded by Counselor Henry. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Contrary-minded nay. Motion is carried. Meeting is adjourned.